Hi, I'm Gian, but for short and sweet, they call me G. Hence, Keeping It G with G, the podcast. This is a weekly heart-to-heart based off of authentic life experiences and honesty in hopes to inspire others to be more transparent about the ups and downs of everyday life shit. And to give you, the listeners, that extra push you may need to begin your own journey of self-help and healing. And please, keep in mind that I'm not an expert. I'm just speaking from experience. Now let's start the show. Welcome to episode 34 of Keeping It G with G, the podcast. Thank you once again for tuning in to hear me talk my shit for yet another week. So for this episode, I wanted to basically do a recap over the past 8 months or so of my podcasting journey before the year comes to a close. I'm so grateful for the listeners. I'm grateful for the support. Anyone who has uplifted me when I've second guessed the podcast, reposted an episode, or supported me in any way. That has been one of the most motivating forces in me continuing this journey. It has not at all been easy, but it has grown me in a way that is unexplainable because it can be tough, especially because I'm on my podcast solo and it's all me weekly. But I literally love this shit. Like, the more I get behind this mic, the more I'm coming to understand that this is truly therapeutic. Not only because you guys tell me when an episode really hits you or you can relate in a way, but more so when I go back and listen, I can take my own advice because I so much love to be there for everyone and give good advice, but I very rarely take my own damn advice, which is ironic, but I think a lot of us are that way. So I'm not alone in that. I'm also excited because I feel like I'm just getting started. I'm continuously doing my homework on podcasting and working towards perfecting my craft. I find that I learn something new about myself and the podcasting world weekly. It's such a big growing audience for podcasting. So I feel like it's always something for me to learn. So I always try to make sure I'm doing my homework weekly to just try to learn, different ways to grow my audience or how to approach different topics and segments so that they can translate. So yeah, as you all know, this podcast was created and is based off of true life experiences and honesty and hopes to inspire more people in our community to understand that there's beauty in healing and being vulnerable and transparent about the ups and downs of everyday life shit. Excuse me. And I started that because I think that with the way that the world is right now with social media, it's so easy for us to come off or look at other people's lives like everybody's perfect or everything is glitter and gold, when in all honesty, it's not. And it's beauty in sharing that, especially with people that you trust. And that's why I pride myself on being honest and vulnerable on my podcast in particular, because I want you guys to know that it's okay to be imperfect. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. And I always want to come behind this mic and encourage you guys to be honest. And hopefully I'm doing that with sharing my vulnerability and being honest every week on this podcast. But like I was saying, it's to encourage others to stop pretending and aiming to be perfect and to fall in love with their flaws and mistakes and to use them as a stepping stone towards their growth. So with a dose of authenticity and vulnerability with me, giving you insight as to how I've maneuvered and I still am maneuvering through everyday life shit as it pertains to relationships, friendships, career, motherhood, and just life in general. I hope that my podcast is doing just that for you. Excuse me, I'm tongue-tied. But Nonetheless, I named my podcast Keeping It G with G because honestly, I don't know how to do anything else, especially with myself, but keep it real and honest. I hold myself accountable every step of the way, even when I don't want to, because it helps me to grow when I'm able to be honest and transparent with myself about my own shit. So I pride myself on practicing what I preach. If I'm telling you guys weekly to love on yourself, to care for yourself, to, walk towards the journey of healing, if that's what you're on, because we've all been there where we have to work through our own shit. If I'm telling you guys to do that, I have to do the same. So that's why I am so passionate about what I talk about on this podcast weekly. But yeah, like I was saying, even when I don't want to be accountable, I have to be, because it helps me to grow when I'm able to be honest and transparent with myself about my own shit. If you're unable to do this with yourself, it'll be very detrimental to your life, others, and yourself as it pertains to your growth. This is really, really why I hope that with me sharing through my experiences and being on this journey of figuring shit out, I pray that I am pushing you guys to do the same and step into all that you're destined to be, being your most authentic self and healing yourself and holding yourself and others accountable. I pray that when I get behind this mic weekly, that I'm not saying that what I'm saying is not going in vain. I hope that you guys are feeling me, because I really mean it. Every topic, every question I answer during my Q&A segments, every single word, I mean it. And I pray that my podcast will stand out in that way. And I feel like it is. I feel like it's doing its job, even though I just started and it's been 8 months or so. I feel like it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, especially as a young Black woman in her 20s, her late 20s, going into my 30s, balancing life in general, mom life and work life, while going through and getting through life, that I am inspiring the next woman to be her best self by any means. And lastly, I hope that you all are finding a gem in each and every episode that I drop, because that's my sole purpose. It is to bring awareness to, like I said, being more vulnerable about the things that we go through, loving your imperfection, and loving yourself, flaws and all, especially about things that we all go through. And this isn't just for Black women. This is for all people of color, men too. This is for anyone who needs a dose of real life shit weekly. I pray that through speaking through my own personal experiences of going through and getting through obstacles of life, that this podcast will touch those who need to hear it most. And I'm not talking for shits and giggles. Like I said, I mean every word I say behind this mic, every single word weekly. Like every time that I get on this podcast and I talk about different subjects, whether it be about friendships, relationships, just putting your best foot forward, I really do mean it, because it's just not enough podcasts, I feel, out here that are doing that. It's a lot of podcasts, and this isn't any shade or anything. It's just that it's a lot of repetitious things going on. It's a lot of current event podcasts, but it's not a lot of uplifting women or just people in general, or helping them to put their best foot forward. So I hope that I am doing that in the best way that I can. Like I said, this is a learning experience. It's a process. I feel like I don't know it all, but I'm still learning, and I love what I do. I love that I get to come behind this mic weekly and just share with you guys, because it's doing a number on me too. It's helping me, it's healing me, and it's keeping me motivated, especially when I get the support and I get the feedback from you guys. So I always want to encourage you guys to continue to leave me feedback, to be honest with me, because even if I don't want to hear it, it helps me to grow. So From the bottom of my heart, I am so grateful to be on this journey, to even have this gift that I have. And it is one of my most prized possessions, and I do not take it lightly. I love podcasting. I love to get behind this mic. I know I'm saying that a lot, but I love to get behind this mic and really just be honest and vulnerable, because I've been there and I want you to know that. If you follow me on the Instagram page for the podcast, then you know that I tweeted about that this week. And if you haven't seen the tweets that I posted on my Instagram page, I'm going to read them verbatim, because when I talked about it, I meant it from my heart. So I want to go ahead and, before I close the episode out, read the tweets verbatim of what I said. It says, "I'm a regular ass person who goes through and gets through shit just like you. I'm just not scared to own it out loud and be vulnerable about it. There's healing in vulnerability. Plus, you never know who you could be inspiring by being honest and owning your shit out loud. I'm closing 2019 out as a podcast host. I'm so proud of myself. I was terrified, but I'm here and I'm so glad to be. And I'm excited to see what 2020 holds for Keepin' It G with G, the podcast. I have so many supporters, even the ones that aren't visible or telling me. I know they feel me. I know they hear me because I can feel it. My main goal is for my listeners to know that I am just like them, living, going through life, making mistakes, but not letting them define me. I'm turning every disappointment and failure into a lesson. I'm human, imperfect, but loving every bit of it. And that is exactly why I started my podcast, to let you guys know that I'm just like you. And I'm not a know-it-all, but I want to make sure that I'm speaking positively. I want to make sure that I'm speaking positivity on my platform, and that I am, pushing you guys to just be your best selves at all times, even through the trials. Just, look at the bright side. And that's all I have to say about that. That's the recap for Keepin' It G with G, the podcast. Over the past 8 months, I thank you guys for being on this journey with me. Like I said, I'm far from finished. I'm just getting started. So I hope that you guys will continue to stay on this journey with me. And I pray that each episode touches at least one person. If I'm touching at least one person with the topics that I discuss, even my Q&As, then I'm doing something right. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I look forward to continuing this journey with you. We are just getting started. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for tuning in. And I will talk to you guys for the next episode of Keepin' It G with G, the podcast. Enjoy the rest of your week.